So yeah,
I definitely felt affirmed by the piece. Like, there's so many points of connection between this story here and my personal story as a writer, and specifically the detribalization part. I feel like I'm in this point where I'm struggling with how to manage community and how to navigate community, and this kind of gave me a permission to float. That community is something that I can flow in and out of. Alright, so I'm just going to film this on my phone because my camera... By the way, here's my camera. I told y'all I got a new camera, but I don't think I showed what it looked like. It's got a front-facing viewfinder. It's the Canon G7X. But I did something with the memory. I put the memory card into my computer and deleted footage off of the memory card from my computer. But it's still saying that the memory card is full, so I'm recording on my phone. But it's a little bit after my workshop, and I've gathered my reflection, notes from the reflection, or I've gathered notes for the reflection, and here they go. So we started the workshop out with some generative stuff. We wrote to music, which was really generative for me. The second thing that we did that was generative was we used the form of a 14er, which essentially is you take a sentence and you develop 14 adaptations, 14 different adaptations of that sentence. I got some interesting lines out of that exercise. After we did like a little bit of writing, we got into the discussion portion. So one of the poems that we read for today's class was To Julia de Burgos. And then the other reading was some stuff by Anzaldúa. She has this poem called A How-To, which kind of is in the similar vein as the primer, the Gwendolyn Brooks primer that we read for yesterday's class. In that it's just like a how-to thing for writers, like notes and stuff for writers, which honestly on my own reading that stuff is like, which makes me kind of feel not like an old head poet, but like there's been some moments in here where I felt like, oh damn, I've really been like writing for a while, because a lot of these are lessons I've already learned, things I've already heard, things I've already said to myself in different ways. And so while I was reading on my own, I wasn't really like, I was like, yeah. But when we were talking about it, the workshop facilitator mentioned about writers like writing our own primers, and I was like, that really like, hit a note with me, because I was saying, like, I'll read stuff from writers where they're saying something that I've also said in so many words, and as a writer, you should be saying it in your so many words. Something to think about. Next thing we read was like this little memoir-esque type of joint from Anzaldúa, which I think he called a autohistoria. What's interesting about it is that it's written like prose, I'm assuming, because if it's like a memoir, and if it's a memoir, the character that she names the character Brita, but because it's memoir, I'm assuming that the author is talking about herself. So I was thinking about some of the writing ideas that I've been having for fiction stuff, and things that blur that line between fiction and fact, or non-fiction and non-fiction, I should say, or how to write off non-fiction as fiction to protect your truths. It had me thinking about that. It also had me thinking about the similarities in the paths of writers. And this came up with a lot of in the discussion as well. There's so many moments where we're just like, we just all are experiencing the same stuff as writers. And as people in general, we all have similar experiences, but there'd be them specific writer experiences that we all are like, yeah, me too. I know just what you're talking about. Had that same shit happen to me. And that's how I felt reading the memoir thing, because she talks about kind of growing up, being into reading and writing to create. It's just she was trailing a writer's path, especially a writer who started young, whose interest in writing started young, and that's my story. So there was, I could see the similarities in that, and I could also see the similarities in my experiences as well as the other people in my workshop. And with that being said, towards the end of the piece, she talks about community and isolation and writing in isolation. And it just had me thinking about that word community is just something I've been reflecting on a lot lately. I struggle with community so much. I struggle with interpersonal relationships and how to manage other people, or how to manage interacting with other people. And the way she kind of worded it, to me, it seemed like there's this flowing in and out of community, times for community and times for isolation. What are the ways in which we use community to feed us that inspiration that we then distill and reflect on while we're in isolation? How are we using our isolation productively? Or not productively, I don't want to use the word productively, but how being intentional with our isolation. And I think that this workshop experience for me right now, while I'm in isolation, is just like I'm seeing it play out in a healthy way. Like I'm liking the ways that I'm interacting with a writing community, and I'm liking the time that I'm taking to myself. I'm also thinking about how the pandemic has separated me from my local writing community, but it has also made me closer to my familial community. Yeah, so just thinking about community and writing and isolation and, shit of that nature. Those are the things that came up for me. So the last thing that we did in workshop was critique each other's work, and I'm not going to share a lot of notes about that. It's just been nice to talk about writing with other writers. We're reading stuff, we're having interesting conversations, even when I'm not connecting to a reading or something that someone in the workshop says will, trigger something within me. Seeing how other writers interpret the assignment that we all had has been very interesting. And just all over a good conversation, interesting stuff. Interesting, good writing. Also, I get to read other people's writing, and it's from good writers. Yeah, so those are my reflections on today's workshops, day 2 workshops. And I guess I'll check in after the panel. Oh, let's talk about my homework. Our homework is to just write either a pantun or a loose sonnet. Those are the words he used. So let's see. I'm not going to write that right now, but I'll probably work on that after the faculty reading. And if not, I'll do it in the morning. And so tomorrow's the last day of workshop, and we also are able to meet one-on-one with the workshop facilitator, and I'm definitely going to take advantage of that. I think that we can have him look at either one poem or a couple of the poems that we generated during this, our time together. So I'm definitely going to take advantage of that. But yeah, so I'm feeling good again about day 2. I'm excited for day 3. What's also great is that I have therapy the day after tomorrow. And so this is going to be great to reflect on with my therapist. And then on Friday, I'm teaching. There's actually 2 great things. I'm teaching and I'm on a panel. So I'm fresh with feelings and thoughts and actual writing. And I'm going into a space where I'm going to be, translating what I've learned into something to share. So this is just a good week. It's just a good week that I'm having. But I think I need to go eat something. Feeling decadent. I'm feeling like I want to eat something real tasty right before his faculty reading. Let's go figure that out.